on to the Paterno part of this. First of all, is there still a faction that has wanted to oust Paterno? Has that cooled, and will they use this to make sure that this year is the final straw?
Yeah, there is definitely, oust may be too strong a word. I think there are a lot of people who were hoping, even before any of this, that Joe would walk away, because his health obviously has been giving him issues. He's been injured multiple times now in practice and on the sideline, and I don't think anybody wanted to see him going out getting seriously injured. Are people going to use this as fodder? Yeah, I would assume that critics are, and I think, we're seeing it on forums and that sort of thing right now. So I don't think there's any doubt that people will try to use this. Now, I will say this about Joe Paterno: every time he's been backed into a corner,
no question,
he's come out and he's actually survived it and been very successful. But there's a big difference between losing, having 4 losing seasons in 5 years like they did at the beginning of the last decade, and surviving that.
I agree.
With this situation, I think it's a whole different ballgame.
Completely different. We're talking with Mark Brennan, who covers the Nittany Lions for FightOnState.com. Here's the... And again, I'm not trying to paint you as the Paterno defender, just that you are obviously there. And we all have great reverence, and I've known Joe many years, and we all have always liked Paterno. But here's the problem I have. The 1998 investigation, after reading the grand jury report, there was a document produced by the university police. It is beyond belief to think that Joe Paterno, being Joe Paterno, did not know of a 1998 document produced by university police on his campus about Jerry Sandusky. That he was not aware of that document cannot be believed.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that pops out at you is the 2002 incident where a graduate assistant allegedly saw Sandusky with a boy, and I'll spare you the graphic.
Right, I've read them, so we know them, and they are graphic, yes.
But in the football facility, in a shower, everybody's splitting hairs over the wording here. I mean, the AD said it was quote-unquote horsing around.
Right.
Joe has said, well, he was informed it was inappropriate behavior. Well, it's a man and a child in a shower. I mean,
who cares at that point? I mean,
right.
Yeah. I mean,
but how does it have to be explained that it isn't? Now, the Attorney General is saying, hey, Joe did all the right things, escalating it up the ladder to the athletic director. But at some point, is there a moral obligation?
Yes, there is. And listen, she's tiptoeing around Paterno. I understand that. And listen, she's a political figure. There's no question this is a huge issue from that standpoint. But here's the thing. 98 document, Paterno said he didn't know anything about Sandusky in 2002. And I believe maybe that guy froze and didn't give Joe all the graphic details. I'll maybe buy that, okay? The guy's in front of Joe Paterno. I'll maybe buy that, okay? He's a big figure. So, but 1998, I don't buy that he didn't hear rumblings when they put out a 30-page document about Sandusky. And then why anybody told him that he was no longer able to use the facilities, Joe know about that. Yeah. And then they had to know what this guy was doing around town after they let him roam around all these other years where, I mean, that's not a big place. People knew he was still active with kids.
Yeah, and I think what it boils down to is this word plausible deniability, the way that people tend to protect themselves by saying, well, I didn't know this, or I had no idea, I didn't know the magnitude. And I think, as you're accurately stating, I think you have to take a look at those situations and say, is it credible to think that somebody with this sort of power did not realize that this document was out there, did not realize some of the other allegations perhaps against Jerry Sandusky. We can only take Joe at his word right now, but I do think at some point his credibility does come into question with this, and it's going to be interesting. The state is saying that they intend to rely on him as a witness if and when this goes to trial. So if that does happen, a lot of this is going to come out.
I think Joe's going to have to speak before that. I don't think he's going to be able to hide behind a letter here. I will have to wait and see what happens there. Mark, let me ask you what you came on with, and we're talking about Mark Brennan at FightOn.com. covers the Nittany Lions. You said there were rumors around. Now it's a small place. It's a big stadium, but a small town, and there were rumblings in State College about Sandusky. What were you hearing?
Well, just that there may have been some sort of inappropriate behavior going on. Nothing specific, obviously nothing nearly as graphic as what those...
That he liked little boys kind of thing?
Yeah. But having said that, Mike, I want to be completely clear. I mean, as a member of the media, you know full well that we hear all sorts of...
Right, that doesn't mean it's true, but you did hear... But there was a little buzz or a little rumbling about Sandusky?
Yeah, I think anybody would be lying if they said that wasn't the case. But again, I want to be perfectly clear that we hear rumblings about different things all the time, and 95% of them turn out not to be
absolutely true. Fair point, no question, that's true. The other thing is, how much did people like you see of Sandusky? There's a Yahoo report today that says Sandusky was in the weight room last week. Was Sandusky still a visible figure on the Penn State campus?
Penn State is very closed with respect to its football program. Practices are not open. They may be open one a year. So we do not have the kind of access that would let us know. If somebody's covering the Jets, they're going to have a pretty good...
So you're never in that building then?
No, I mean, very rarely. They can't have a press conference. But we have heard, and I think it's well known at this point, that he did continue to use the facilities there at the Lash building, which is their football complex.
And clearly he did that. And how about at games, in the press box, on the sideline? Was he still a very visible figure around the program?
I never saw, once he retired, I never saw him in the press box, never saw him on the sideline. Now, again, that doesn't mean that there are luxury suites on the other side of the stadium from the press box. Could he have been up in there? Yeah, I'm sure he could have been.
If you had a Penn State dinner, a banquet, you see Sandusky there?
Yeah, he was, as far as I could tell, at the Penn State wrestling team won a national championship this past year, and from what I understand, he was actually at the celebration for that team.
Ever see Paterno and Sandusky in the same place together?
That's a great question, because in the past, 10, 15 years, no, I haven't. I have not.
Do you see a lot of Paterno? I mean, is he visible these days around campus like the old days, or not really?
Well, he is when he's healthy. He was walking around doing a lot of walking before he was injured in the preseason. But once that happened...
Explain to the audience, Mark, how Paterno lives, please. Explain to him the university and how he lives.
Yeah, he lives 3 blocks away from the university in what could only be described as a modest house.
Right, he lives within walking distance, and people can walk past his house.
Yeah, people do all the time. I mean, he lives right by a park. Kids play there, and it's people go and take pictures of his house, and you would not believe that this icon, who's worth all these millions and millions of bucks, again, it's not an ugly house.
No, but he likes living. He's lived very modestly. He's not a guy who tried to live a fancy life. Clearly.
No, not at all. And if you saw his house, you would see, hey, this guy. You would think he was one of your ordinary neighbors. Yes. The sort of house he has.
No question. So my point is, he's right there. He's always been very visible, and I just wonder, and it's going to come up exactly. How close had he cooled the Sandusky? That's I wonder. Is Sandusky was his guy for so many years. Did he cool the Sandusky, and was that a forced retirement? There's a point, as you know, Mark, and let's comment on this in the report, that one of the youngsters who was a victim said that Sandusky actually relayed his anger to the victim about he had just come out of a meeting with Paterno where Paterno had told him he would not become the head coach at Penn State.
Yeah. I can tell you this, that the primary event for Sandusky's charity, the Second Mile, was a golf tournament. Every year, held in the spring, and former players would come, that sort of thing, celebrities, you name it. And I would typically do a radio show from that event with somebody else here in town. And even before '99, many years before that, I had never seen Joe at that event. So I don't know if we can read into anything that the fact that we haven't seen Joe and Sandusky spending time together means something, or I just don't ever really recall seeing them spending much time together other than being on the sideline, I guess is the point I'm making.
Has anybody, now Sandusky has, through these years, has still lived with his wife, right? Correct?
Yes.
Has anyone has anyone put a microphone in front of his wife yet?
I think people attempted to do that back when the grand jury story broke from the Harrisburg Patriot News, and as far as I could tell, she declined comment.
Okay, and anything else? I mean, what are we expecting? Is anybody expecting anything from Paterno in the next days? Is he expected to hold a press conference? Is he expected to speak, or is that letter supposed to suffice?
His weekly press conference, Mike, is Tuesday every week during the season at 12:20 p.m. It's scheduled for tomorrow. As far as I know, he is still going to have that press conference now.
Oh, that's going to be a doozy.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Unless they restrict it. Unless they restrict you know where the questions are going, unless he restricts it.
Well, and it's going to be a little bit of a different ball game, because typically, you know, when you have beat writers there, you really have to respect if somebody says they're not going to, you know, answer questions on a certain topic, because he may not answer questions for the rest of the year, but
he's going to have 250 people there tomorrow.
Right, that's my point.
He's going to have 300 people, national media figures there tomorrow, so they're going to be there, and Penn State knows it, and I don't know how he's going to dance away from it. That's going to be a major press conference.
Yep, it's must-see radio, I guess, or I don't know what.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, you know, I'm hope he's up to it, because you know I do worry about him at 85 being up to that, but it's going to be. I would expect that to be a harrowing experience. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to see if he actually goes through with it, or if he. I don't know how you can't, because you can't. You can't be in a football season and avoid the press at all costs. I just don't think you can pull that off, especially not at a program of this level. That, let's not forget, 8-1. Now they're ranked number 12 in the nation. Nobody would have thought that. And now all of a sudden, all that has been put on the back burner, and nobody even seems to care that Nebraska's coming to town next week.
Unbelievable. Thank you, Mark, very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mike. Thanks for having me.
Mark Brennan, FightOnState.com. As we said, Kim Jones covered Penn State, actually went there and covered Paterno, and I think she covered the team Sandusky's last year too. So we'll talk to her about it when she comes in later today. We'll get to other things too. We'll take your questions on this. I know a lot of people want to bring it up. I mean, listen, there's no way around this. Paterno's last year or not, and I think this was moving towards being his last year anyway, from everything I had heard. His contract was expiring. He's 85. His health has not been great lately. He's having a very good year. It would have been a good year for him to go out on, take a nice bowl game, win it, and go home, ride into the sunset. Now there is other issues, and he is going to have to answer to them. I mean, there's no way around it. There are questions that have to be answered, that people want answered to. And listen, the idea that people think that this is not a witch hunt. These legitimate questions about a very serious issue. This is bigger than Joe Paterno. Back after this.